Good afternoon. I'm Carl Grant, and I was part of the founding team of this event, so I'm really happy to be up here today. So I've got a question for you. How many of you have seen on social media this character right here? Yeah, a lot of you, right? So I'm going to tell you a story from 2 years ago. I didn't know who this character was. This is James DeMullen, and he was a student at UT, and you've seen him on the internet. He comes up and he sticks a microphone in my face. And he says, what's the most you've ever made in a year? I'm like, who are you? Like, what kind of question is that? Anyways, I didn't know who he was, and he proceeded to ask me a few questions, and I didn't have his contact information, he didn't have mine. I got a text on Monday, and the thing got 4 million views, all right? And so I'm like, who is this guy? And so I tracked him down, we've become friends, did another post with him. It also got 4 million views, and we've been to Saudi Arabia together. So I'm really thrilled to introduce James DeMullen up here. And then Hugh Forrest is a very special man to me. I don't think he knows how a special man. So if you guys are enjoying South by Southwest, please give this man a hand. He's running this event. And so this gentleman, Hugh Forrest, who's co-president of South by Southwest and chief programming officer, and he's been doing this for 36 years. He's responsible for moving me to Austin, Texas. So he's got a warm spot in my heart, and I'm really thrilled to introduce both of these guys, my friends, today. Okay.
Well, thank you, Carl, and it was great to be here with you today, here at an incredible event that you've been an immense part of putting on and having to explode. And I wanted to start off by asking you, in brands, companies across a ton of different industries, we see that they have a lifespan, oftentimes of maybe 5 to 10 years, but you guys have been constantly growing steadily over the last 30 to 40 years. What would you say has been, your secret to that constant relevancy, but growing year after year after year and not phasing out like so many other brands or companies do?
Well, great question. Great to be here. Carl, thank you for the nice words. I will say that South by Southwest is not about me or about my staff. It is about the community. We all have a role in this, and people love coming to Austin, particularly in March. To your question, I think one of the secrets that we've remained relevant for 35 years is that we've changed and pivoted a lot. I mean, when South by Southwest started in 1987, it was entirely focused on music, all right? 7 years later, 1994, we added film and what was then called multimedia, i.e. technology. We continue to reinvent ourselves, add new kinds of content. Certainly in your world, one of the things that's very popular at South by Southwest now is all the creator economy stuff that we do. We have at the convention center roughly right now, the guy who does Hot Ones is speaking. I'm sure he's being mobbed, but this is a demonstration that, again, we're going to always change, try to stay up with whatever is trending, even try to be there in front of what is trending. That is the secret here, and the flip side there is if South by Southwest had only focused on music, had not changed from music, I don't think we would have survived for as long as we've been lucky enough to survive.
So adaptability has been everything for you guys.
Everything.
Yeah.
I mean, we're as much as we've changed, as much as the topics changed, the North Star, the 2 points of North Star are as follows: creativity, human creativity in all its many forms, and community. This idea of community, which is what you're doing, or what we're doing here with this event.
Right. So you talked about how you added all of these different verticals, but you started again at the local level where it was just Austin, and now it's an international event where 400,000 people from not just here but all around the world coming to attend this event. What would you say were those things that you guys did continuously to scale year after year, beyond just even adding the verticals, right? Because you said you started with the focus in music, creativity. You guys have so many different verticals now. Any advice to somebody, maybe they're in the event space business, they're trying to scale and grow their company to get to that international level, what would you say?
Well, I think that the big advantage we've had is just longevity. I mean, we've grown a little bit every year, and over 35 plus years, that amounts to something huge. and we were lucky enough to start when social media wasn't around, so all our mistakes couldn't be broadcast to the world. But again, just growing a little bit every year, trying to improve ourselves a little bit every year, trying to incorporate new communities into the mix, that has proved to be a very powerful formula.
Right. Now, you have a background in journalism.
Well, I'm going to be a writer when I grow up, but I haven't grown up yet.
Right. But how much of a role would you say that that's played in shaping the events, and how much of an influence has that had on the events here at South by?
I think more what has shaped the event from my background is that I went to a small liberal arts college in Ohio. In liberal arts, this idea of incorporating a lot of different, areas of study and coming up with something of the well-rounded human or whatnot. And I think that's what we do with South by Southwest. I mean, again, you can go to a session about cooks, about how AI is impacting food. Then you can go to another session about quantum computing. Then you can go to another session about, again, creator economy. There's all kinds of different communities that come together. And again, that's very reflective or very, I think, very emblematic of that liberal arts tradition or liberal arts background.
Now, was there a big challenge that you at one point had to overcome in those early years that maybe you haven't talked about or discussed? And if so, what's one challenge that stood out to you that you overcame and maybe look back and say, I don't even know how we got past that?
Well, we have challenges. We're constantly dealing with challenges, and if it looks like we've overcome them, then we're doing our job right. I think that the early years, it was hard for the technology part to get traction, okay? The music was getting a lot of traction, the film was getting a lot of traction, technology wasn't. More recently, the challenge is kind of the other way around, is that we have been fortunate enough to grow so much, and that's cool on so many levels, but our big challenge now is breaking down this big event into much smaller, more approachable events, something that is more easily digested. So we're constantly looking at new ways to kind of, again, create smaller, more intimate events within this large event.
I love it. And I know we got about a minute left up here. Is there anything else that you can let the people know about? Any plans to evolve here in the near future? Any other things? I mean, you guys have constantly done it time and time again through adaptability, evolving into different features, different verticals. Anything else for people, who are looking forward to future events to come?
Well, I'll give a shameless plug to our two new events. We've got an event in Sydney, Australia that occurs in every October. This will be our third one this coming October. And then we've got our first event happening in London in June 2025. And these will not be like what South by Southwest Austin is. And that won't work. It will be trying to, emphasize the local community, the local creativity, what makes those cities strong, compelling. That's been the formula for Austin, is emphasizing what's cool in Austin. And as long as London can do that and Sydney can continue to do that, those events have, I think, a great chance for success.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time here. We really appreciate you.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, gentlemen.
So, as we're wrapping up this interview, I want to also mention that Hugh did embrace this event coming out of COVID, which was a really tough time for South by Southwest because it was shut down literally for 2 years, really, and so he knew that this type of event was wanted here, and he embraced us, and I want to thank him for that.
Well, absolutely, Carl, and again, I think this fits into this vision of community that is so important to Austin, so important to South by Southwest, and so important for all of us moving forward, is to try to find the community that we fit into and work within that community to achieve great things.
Thank you. All right, we're going to bring Brandon Downer up with Pink's Window Services. Thank you, Hugh. So as Brandon makes his way up here, he also founded his company coming out of COVID. And I've watched his YouTube video, and it's a really interesting story. These guys had no jobs, and they didn't know what they were doing, but now they're experts at what they're doing, and I'm really excited to hear this story. So James, take it away.
Absolutely. So first of all, very happy to be here with you today, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's awesome.
Yeah, so I wanted to start off by asking, you said, you and your partner, that you guys are going to be bringing dignity back to blue-collar services. What does that mean for people out there?
Yeah, so basically the whole thesis behind that statement is the service business we felt was broken. We felt like it's so hard to get service people, whether it's your plumber, your electrician, whatever it is, to get to your house, to show up on time, to do what they say they're going to do. It seemed like everybody we talked to and interviewed had a nightmare blue-collar story. And so when we say we're bringing dignity back into blue-collar, we're going to do two things. We're going to show up on time, we're going to do what we say we're going to do, and then we're going to have a brand. You see the hat, all of our guys wear uniforms up and down South Congress, all over Austin, but we're going to have a brand that's tied to flipping the script on blue-collar and telling a different story, that these jobs matter, and that without blue collar in our city would be a total disaster. So we really believe that in our hearts, and that's what it's all about, bringing dignity back.
Now, when most people think about like a window company, right, they're not thinking that it's very exciting. So
very boring, yes.
Right, but how did you grow this company to 7 figures?
So we grew up by one window at a time is really the answer. Carter and I started this thing. We were in his 2004 Chevy Tahoe, and we drove around town. We door knocked. We door knocked again. We got told no, and we just kept pushing through. And so if you're out there and you're trying to start a business, whether it's a boring business like window cleaning or a cool tech company like Mark's Tech Company, it's one day at a time. And I would just say we just kept taking that next step, that next house, that next big project, and slowly but surely we get to that $1 million mark.
Yeah. But you guys have been growing rapidly since 2020.
Yeah.
Is there anything else that you guys are implementing that has enabled that rapid growth over the last couple of years?
Absolutely. I think the biggest thing that enables our growth is people. So you can grow your business a lot of ways, but if we want to scale it across the country, you can grow it corporately or you can grow it via franchising. We chose the franchise model because we believe that we want to empower owners. And so much of our story is we were working in 9-to-5 jobs where we kind of just felt stuck. I don't know if anyone here is in a 9-to-5 and it feels like you're firing at like 50% capacity or bandwidth of what you have up there in your brain. And so we're basically trying to get people out of that and into a career. And again, it's not rocket science, it's a boring business, but we're trying to jazz it up and get them out of that boring 9-to-5 where they're not using their whole brain and get them to be the leader. And so by choosing good franchisees and really by them choosing us, they have an ownership mentality, and not just the mentality, but they're an actual owner. So they own a Pink's business in Dallas, in Fort Worth, in Orange Beach, Alabama, in California, wherever they're at, and they own the business. And so we chose to empower owners to scale our business.
Right. Now, I don't think many people realize this, but the people that actually work inside of your company that are going to do these jobs, you have this like retro 1950s aesthetic that you kind of put on when you're going to these different, can you kind of describe that aesthetic for people?
Yeah, honestly, I should have wore the uniform, so my fault. Picture's worth 1,000 words, but basically, Dickies from head to toe, white Dickies fit with the Pink's logo and then your personal name. And basically the whole thought was to bring it back to the good old days. And I feel like in the old days, people knew who their plumbers were. They knew the milkman, and there was this like pride in coming into people's homes and serving their community, and we feel like that pride is lost, so we wanted to like get the uniform right. Also, when you're wearing a good looking uniform and you're cleaning windows, it gets people asking the question, you know, what do you do, or how can I get you to come to my house or to my business or to my office? And so the business grew a lot by just wearing the uniform. For the longest time, my business partner Carter, he's a style guy. If it were up to me, I'd be wearing Crocs and cargo shorts every day to clean windows because it's Austin, it's hot. But Carter's like, no, we have to protect the brand at all costs. We're gonna wear the uniform. We're gonna tuck in the shirt. And we're gonna have this culture where all of our guys are gonna wanna do the same thing. And so the uniform is extremely important, and it just builds trust with customers all over the city and now all over the country.
Right. So branding's been very important for you guys.
Oh, it's been huge. And I remember a mentor a long time ago said that protect your brand, because a brand it's all you got. And if your brand is watered down, or if it's not what you want it to be, then customers won't relate or respond. So we're all about branding, and our brand message and our strategy is simple. We look at all of our competitors. You look at their Instagrams, you look at their websites, and we just chose to kind of just do the exact opposite of them and kind of go against the grain and have a fun brand and try to get people thinking about window cleaning that have never thought about it in their entire lives. Honestly, before Pinks, I never thought about window cleaning. I just thought the windows just clean themselves. But the goal is just to put the brand, whether it's in Hitman, the movie on Netflix, or with a Dickies collab that's coming out soon, just put the brand where people would think to, where people would think of it not to be, really.
Right. But you guys recently have landed some of the biggest possible clients that you can get in the city of Austin. For those of you who don't know, some of his clients are the Moody Center, the Q2 Arena, which is Austin FC Stadium.
Yep.
Talk to us real quick about what it was like to land those clients. What was that process like of reaching out to those Sharks?
Right. So it's so funny. The Moody Center is one of my favorite stories because we know some people at the top of Moody Center. And so we were trying to work it from the top and try to, trickle it down to whoever the maintenance director is. But how we got that deal was not from the top down. It was actually from the maintenance director getting on Google, finding Pinks, saying, oh, this website's easy to use, called our phone number, and we answered the phone. And so many times in the service business, it's really hard to get the plumber or the window cleaner or the lawn guy just to pick up the phone and say, what's up? And so we just answer the phone, and that's how we got that. The Q2 one, we reached out via cold email. So we always use clients and we leverage clients to try to get bigger and better clients. Hey, Q2, we clean the Moody Center and Circuit of the Americas. How about we come clean your stadium as well? And so they actually responded, thankfully.
Credibility matters.
It matters a lot, absolutely.
And I want to end off by asking how much of a role has faith played in your success with your business partner, and how important has that been for you in being able to grow this company to the point that it is now?
Faith is everything. Jesus is king, and something my uncle told me a long time ago is there's no such thing as a self-made person, a self-made millionaire, self-made billionaire. It's like, I didn't bring myself into this world. I didn't teach myself to read. I see my two parents sitting right there. They impacted me so much. Mark McLean, who's about to be up here, his son mentored and discipled me. And so without mentors and discipleship and really just Jesus divinely making all of it happen, there's no Pinks, there's no School of Hard Knocks, there's no nothing. So faith truly is why we do what we do. And it gives us amazing purpose. I think before I read Every Good Endeavor, I thought faith in the marketplace simply meant just sharing the gospel with your coworkers and with your clients. And what we realized is it is that, but it's also the work itself. We love cleaning windows because we believe that God is taking care of our city through our hard work. We clean the windows, and now, the mom has a clean house and she's proud of her house. The office worker has a clean space to work at. And so we believe that in any job you work, God is loving your fellow employees, your customers, through your hard work. And so to us, faith is everything, and we're so grateful that the good Lord brought us all here today.
Awesome. Well, thank you for being with us, man. We really enjoyed it.
Thank you so much. Thanks for what you do.
Appreciate you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, Brandon. Stephen Montgomery, come on up here. This is another interesting story. Stephen Montgomery was a pastor turned entrepreneur. He's a painting entrepreneur, and I'm excited to hear his story as well. So, James, take it away.
Awesome. Stephen, it's great to be with
What's
you.
up, man? How you doing? Good. Good to see you.
Great to see you.
Yeah.
So you're pioneering the home services revolution.
That's what we're trying to do. Yeah.
Talk to us about it real quick.
Yeah. So I dropped out of college, actually Bible college. After a year and a half, I got what I needed, which was a wife. Ring by spring. If any of you have ever been to a Bible college, they had a joke that if you walked around the lake 3 times, you had to get married. And so you'd see couples walk 2.5 times and turn around. The conversation wasn't good enough. Anyway, sorry. I dropped out of college and decided I wanted to pursue business, and I ultimately started painting houses. I had just gotten married. It was 3 weeks after our honeymoon, and I had $12 in my bank account but couldn't work for anybody else, and just decided to quit my job and started painting houses, and it grew from there. We grew it that painting company, that one painter, to being one of the larger painting companies here in Texas, and then we started franchising it, and then now we have turned that into a whole platform of home service brands.
I love it. Now, you started in the home services business by painting for your dad's company.
Yeah, so my dad briefly, when I was a freshman in high school, had a painting company, and I painted for him on the weekends and over the summer, and then he quit doing it and moved on. And then my mom was a realtor, so I started taking the equipment that he had, and I would paint for her clients as like for side gigs. And so I kind of learned how to paint a little bit towards the end of high school, and then a little bit while I was in college as well.
Yeah. So you got your start there, but you ultimately did what a lot of people are afraid to do, which is take that leap, to kind of leave that, a lot of people, I think, use college as like a safety net, where it's like, oh, I'm going to be here for a couple years, and then eventually I'll figure it out. But for somebody who may be in that position where they've realized, hey, this isn't the path that I want to go, they want to take that leap, what advice would you give to them, looking at the path that you took that enabled you to find success as fast as you did?
I started really young, which in some ways was an advantage because I didn't have a lot of responsibility on me other than my wife. And I remember that conversation with her. We literally had $12 in our bank account, but I had a side gig, exterior painting job that I thought was going to book for the weekend. And it was a $2,700 job. The guy was going to give me like a 50% deposit. And I've just always been a risk taker. Like my whole life, I'm not very fearful of stepping out and trying something. And so I was like, that'll be the seed money for this company. I'll be fine with what my wife makes at Starbucks. We will be able to cover rent. And so she literally was like, yeah, let's do it. And so I quit subcontracting and painting for this other company, so went out and did it myself. And that literally called my boss, quit, and he loved that, right? I gave him 1 day notice. And so that next day, that job that I thought I had, canceled. And so I had $12 in my bank account, nothing at all. And so my rule was I would knock on doors until somebody gave me a job for the next day. And I would only have to knock on doors for about 4 hours, and I would have a job the next day. And then it grew from there into a lot of referrals that I would get. But the thing is, like, what I would say to anybody who's thinking about entrepreneurship is pick something that you know and that you think you can even do somewhat well. Like, I was a below average painter. I was not a very good painter. And yeah, I still was able to build a business off of that because I had this confidence in myself and I knew that I could figure things out. And so people would ask me like, hey, can you fix the siding? And I'd be like, yep. And I would just watch YouTube videos that night. And so until I figured it out, and I just grew from there. And so Resi Brands now is 700 franchise units. But it started with a decade-long journey of me building one painting company in one city here in Austin, Texas, before we then franchised and had all that success. And because we've grown so fast as Resi Brands and Pinks and all of that has just grown rapidly, I can't stand it when people think it's like an overnight success, because I'm like, this was a 10-year foundation before we even franchised.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, I got to ask you, because you're crushing it in the franchise model. And if anybody consumes a decent amount of business content in today's world, there's a lot of light being shed on franchise businesses, because you're essentially getting the playbook from somebody else, and you're just kind of coming up with your own effective marketing ways to grow and scale that business. Do you think somebody should start a business in today's world from scratch or franchise a company? What are your thoughts?
I think it's really depends on the person. Some people are going to want total autonomy, control over the brand. They're going to want to do their own thing in their own way. Franchising is not for that person. We meet Brandon as well. We meet potential franchise candidates all the time, and we tell them, like, franchising is not for everyone. But if you want the proven playbook, you want to be part of a brand that's already established, you want to be in a community of entrepreneurs building the exact same business you are, and learning from each other and growing, then franchising is a really great option. Where I always joke that we burned all the pancakes so you don't have to, right? Like, we've made all the mistakes. We've taken a decade or years of experience and put it all together into a playbook to where you can now execute on that. And we see franchisees do numbers that in their first year that took us, I think it was like year 7 before I was doing numbers like that. And that's the power of franchising, is you get to kind of fast track with a proven system and playbook.
Right, and we were talking to Hugh about how South by Southwest, they did a really good job of going after different verticals beyond just music into entertainment, into business, into tech. And you effectively did the same thing in your franchise model where you guys aren't just doing painting, you guys are also working with them to do windows. How many verticals or different businesses would you say that you have that you're franchising right now?
Yeah, so we started with a painting company. That grew quickly. And then we also partnered with Pinks and have been able to scale them rapidly. And then we now have 3 other brands. So one in the garage remodeling space, one that is roofing, siding, and windows, and then another that's a handyman brand that just is about to launch. And so we have 5. Our goal is to long term, I mean, I'm thinking not just in the next few years, but in the next 10, 20, and 30 years, we want to build the largest trades organization in the world. We think we can do that. We think we can get to 20 or 30 brands with well over 1,000 franchisees. And so that's what we're working on, and we believe we can truly lead a blue-collar revolution.
Right. And Carl had mentioned that you were a pastor at one point in time. You're a faith-based entrepreneur. How has faith shaped your approach to business?
I think, so I planted a church when I was 25, and we actually met in a comedy club, Cap City Comedy Club for a while, and then before that we met in an improv club. But I did that all while running my painting company. And business for me, I had a team. I would work 20, 30 hours, and then I would work another 20, 30 hours a week in the church. I also did a lot of like youth ministry. And it was a lot of fun, and I did that for about 3 years, and then I really felt God calling me to focus more on business. And so I made a shift, and that's when my business started to rapidly grow in 2018. And so I tell people that all the time, because I've also done a lot of mission trips, and I remember being stranded in the middle of like Kenya at one point, and we didn't know how we were going to get out. There was no ride. It was this dramatic scenario. And I tell people all the time, I'm like, that took less faith than being an entrepreneur. like at that moment, I remember being like, we'll figure it out. We'll find a way out of here. And there's moments as an entrepreneur where you're going to be laying there at 2 o'clock in the morning, not sure how you're going to make payroll. And it takes more faith sometimes to do that, to trust God, to keep going when you want to quit. And so I think that like whatever we do, God is going to call us into great things, but he also is going to call us to do hard things. And that's just the journey of entrepreneurship. And I think knowing God, trusting Jesus is a huge blessing, because I don't know how you would do it without it. I don't know how people go through hard things without faith. It's hard for me to understand. And my parents were Christians, so I've been saved since I was like 3. But I don't know what it would be like to not have God to rely on, to, as I'm putting my head on the pillow, kind of give all things back to him and trust him with everything that I have. And that brings me just this huge sense of peace no matter what's going on.
Well, you got amazing advice. Thank you so much for being with us today, man.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, brother.
Thank you, Stephen. Mark McLean, make your way up here. So I'm really excited to bring Mark McLean up here. You know, to do one IPO in your lifetime is a big deal. Mark has actually taken the same company public twice, and recently took it public for $1.38 billion. And so not only is Mark a great guy, he's a big supporter of this ministry, and we appreciate you, Mark. Thank you for doing that, and thank you for being here.
Yeah. Mark,
Pleasure.
very happy to be here with you today, man.
Good to see you, brother.
Carl also forgot to mention that you sold your first company for $150 million. So you are absolutely a business inspiration to so many. I think I interviewed you a couple years ago, and
You've become quite a bigger deal. Me, I'm just kind of doing this IPO thing.
Well,
It's like,
I'm still learning a lot from you. I wanted to ask you, I think I asked you in that previous interview, what did it feel like to take a company public? You know, that's every entrepreneur's dream, to one day kind of ring that bell on NASDAQ. Like he said, you took the company public, it went private, and then you went public again. What does that feeling feel like to somebody who may not know?
I think surreal is the only really good word. It's very surreal. And I'm weird. I wasn't the guy who always thought that was going to happen. I was not thinking that was the outcome. We sold our first company, and we started this one thinking that was the most likely outcome again. Venture-backed, you know. I always say I'm not even close to as brave as the guys that do it like they've done it, like credit cards and sleepless nights. I was happy to try to waste other people's money, but in this case it worked out. But I think there's just this like, well, we'll never get there. We'll probably sell the business, and then that happened. And I, to your point, Carl's point, distinctly remember thinking in 2017, well, this is awesome. I'll certainly never do this again. And then we did it again. It's a very long, complicated story. But all that to say, there is a sense of you're kind of in the center of raw capitalism, I like to call it in New York, and that's what it is. It's raw. It's kind of good and bad. You see some of the amazing impact you're having on people's lives. There's a lot of financial reward for people that have helped you get to that journey. And then there's a lot of negativity in the world of raw capitalism. So as a believer, I think you have to kind of navigate the positive aspects of what you can do to help people and create an environment that loves and honors people, and kind of navigate the money-hungry world of Wall Street. So it's just an interesting challenge.
So, as a believer, like you said, how do you kind of balance, your pursuit and quest for the immense success that you've had in the business world, financially, with that balance of faith and family as well? How do you kind of, is it a strategy? Have you thought about that? What is your thought process like when you're separating those two?
Yeah, I always start with one word here, which is intentionality. You don't accidentally get to a work-life balance when you do this. It's like, hey, I just lucked into a perfect work-life balance. That doesn't happen. The word I've used, which is so non-marketable, and I actually had a marketing background, so I apologize for this as I say it, but the game I have learned is to achieve what I call temporary, healthy imbalance. Temporary, healthy imbalances. Because what you're doing all the time is navigating, oh gosh, work is really intense right now, my family's gonna pay the price a little bit. That, if you think you're gonna go into starting or running a business and there will be zero sacrifice for your family, you should keep your corporate job. Like, that's not real. On the other hand, lots of entrepreneurs and business leaders sacrifice their family on the altar of success. And I have spoken to MBA programs, for instance, and I have intentionally kind of scared the crap out of younger MBA students and said, look, here's what you don't want to be. You don't want to be my age in a 20,000 square foot house by yourself after your third divorce with your kids in rehab. And I have a lot of friends like that. That's not a successful life. They may have built a successful business. That is not a successful life. And so to achieve a successful life, you're going to have intentionality about this. And this silly phrase, which I probably should try to come up with a better one. We might market it. Who knows? But temporary, healthy, and balance says you're going to be constantly adjusting in and out of various temporary levels of engagement in various parts of your life. The trick is to keep it healthy as you can and know that it's never going to be perfectly balanced. And that's the game. You're like the tightrope guy. You're never just standing there going, got it. I've got 37.9% of my life in my family, 29.8% in my church, 14.12% of my health. It's like stupid. You're never going to get that, right? So you're constantly rebalancing, but the trick is to rebalance toward a healthy balance that honors God, takes care of your family, and tries to grow your business. And it is possible, but it's hard and it takes intentionality.
Yeah. Now, you've raised hundreds of millions of dollars. You kind of brought up earlier about how a lack of capital is a big thing that people struggle with in business. Do you have any advice for somebody who they're trying to find those investors, they're trying to get capital to start and grow their businesses? What are you seeing in today's world? Obviously, you're in software, but maybe regardless of the industry that somebody's in, a good way to go about getting capital in today's world, or what you're seeing is the most effective way?
No, it's a great question. And I try to tell people to kind of use the phrase fit for purpose here. The thought there is, depending on what kind of business you're trying to build and the speed at which you're trying to build it and the capital required to build it drives what you need to do for funding. If you're building, to credit Stephen and team, if you're building a painting business, you don't have to raise hundreds of millions of dollars. If you're building a tech company that's going to sell to giant corporations, which is what we do, we had to raise a bunch of money. Now, it turns out we only raised 20 million, which is paltry by today's venture world. We've built more money into the company. That was people buying other people out. It wasn't money coming into the business. We raised $20 million to actually build the business over 3 years, which today sounds like nothing. And that's what it took in our minds to get to a stable, break-even state where we could then grow from there. But you have to kind of go into it saying, well, here's the kind of business I'm going to build. Here's some sense of the capital I'm going to need. Take the capital you need to get through the phase you're in, prove that it's working, and take more capital. It's almost that simple. So don't raise more than you need. As my former CFO once famously said, too much money burns a hole in your brain, right? Like, if you have too much money, you will spend it, often stupidly, so don't raise more money than you need, but raise enough that you're not doing that horrible, I can't figure out how to make payroll thing if you're going to raise outside capital. If you're going to fund it yourself, like the guys have, You're going to have the 2 o'clock mornings. I'm too old for that. I can't do that. I can't.
They always say that more companies die from indigestion than they do from starvation.
Well said.
So I wanted to ask you this. Like you said, you raised $20 million, but you're selling to these tech giants. You're probably going up against companies that have raised hundreds of millions of dollars. Thinking back to your first company that you exited for 9 figures, now this one that has a multi-billion-dollar valuation, what are some things that you've done consistently in the tech business to differentiate yourself, to stand out in a crowded market like the tech industry when you're selling software? How have you consistently differentiated?
And I think, to be fair, it does differ if you're in the B2C world or the B2B world. I've lived my whole career in the B2B world, business to business, meaning we're selling to business. If you're selling to consumers, there's a whole lot of different. I always say consumers scare me to death. I haven't even figured out why MySpace lost to Facebook. I don't even understand that. So consumer scares the heck out of me. I don't get it. But business to business, you have to show up with a clearly differentiated value proposition. And one of the things I like to say to our team is the longest term sustainable competitive advantage is listening better. If you're attuned to the market, listening to the customers, humble enough to acknowledge that they know more about their problems than you do, and then you go off and build products that actually solve their problems, shockingly, they will buy your products. And so many tech guys are particularly guilty of just building what they think sounds fun and cool and interesting, and they show up and they're shocked that nobody wants to buy it. And so I tell our team, if we can have that humility and that constant need to listen better, when we show up, and back 25 years ago it was against Oracle and IBM, and today it's against Salesforce or ServiceNow or other big bad software companies, Microsoft, we just have a better product, and we've listened better, and we've built something they need, and they go, that's what I need, I'm gonna buy your stuff. So part of it is very basic blocking and tackling.
So in other words, if you listen to the customer, they're always going to tell you the answer.
No. I love to contradict myself. It makes me seem kind of schizophrenic, which is fun at my age. But the point is, you have to listen to customers. You also have to know which customers to listen to. And sometimes they're so angry about the alien on their face, they can't see past that to what you really need to do next. And so you have to kind of choose who you listen to, because not every customer is right, believe it or not. And so that's the art, is listening correctly and filtering out some of the noise to get the common theme so you can go get it right.
Yeah. Well, Mark, we appreciate you being here today. Thank you.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Mark. And another big hand for James DeMullen from School of Hard Knocks. Thank you, James. And appreciate Hugh and Brandon and Stephen as well. Thank you.